All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to an ASEA Global Expansion Team Zoom. We have Ed Wiens joining us tonight. We're going to have a discussion about the genesis of network marketing. We thought this was a worthwhile topic, considering so many people are so confused about this model. I mean, you hear so many things about a pyramid or a triangle or one of those things, or whatever. Some people love it, some people hate it, and most people are just really confused about it. So Ed, thanks so much for joining us tonight.
It's a pleasure, Cindy. Thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. So talk to us. Where did this whole business model come from, and how did it get started?
First, I just think it's fascinating to look at the genesis of any endeavor, anything. We talk a lot in ASEA about the genesis of the company, and I think it's important to understand a little bit about how it began to kind of appreciate where it is today and where it's going. And that really is true of really any enterprise. I think, entities become somewhat reflective of their foundations and where they come from. I mean, there's a whole book in the Bible called Genesis, because the beginning of stuff's important. And so I think the genesis of this industry, of course, first of all, this is the ultimate business that incorporates the principle of word of mouth. And if you think about it, if you understand a little bit about just the history of business, word of mouth has really always been what drives business. It really, in fact, I went through a study for a year with a bunch of business guys, and we read a book every month. And one of the books was this book on the 150-year chocolate war. And you learn that really conventional advertising didn't even become a thing until sometime in the 1800s. Prior to that, all the way back to whenever people began to do anything for pay, whether it was a craftsman, a farmer, somebody who made anything that sold in a marketplace, word of mouth was everything. And somewhere in the 1800s, we kind of got into the whole marketing methodology and advertising and persuading people. And I think really we've kind of come full circle in network marketing, where word of mouth is it. And so this is the oldest method of distribution. It's just it's got new life in today's world. But I think the history of this business is fascinating. I'm gonna venture to say that. In fact, I think I mentioned the name to you today, Cindy, that you'd never heard of. And I'm going to venture that most folks on the call here tonight or listening in on recording have never heard of Carl Renborg. And you'd never heard of him until today, right?
Right.
So he's really a hero to all of us in network marketing. He was an American businessman who was doing business in China in the early 1900s. And it was some unrest and civil war. He was actually in prison for a period of time, like in the 1920s. And he just developed, he was a chemist, and he began to, he observed, first of all, that a whole lot of the approach to treating health issues or lack of health issues in China was more holistic. It was plant-driven, and he really studied that. And while he was in prison, he learned to subsist on plants and herbs and so forth. And so he came through that experience with a real appreciation for natural health and the way to treat things naturally. And in 1934, he started a company. He founded a company called Nutrilite, which was based on his understanding of nutrition and nutritional products. And so he started that company. And I don't know the name of one of his salespeople, or even if it was ever recorded, but somebody came to him and offered and proposed the idea that if he could train some of the salespeople that Carl had in his enterprise for a percentage of what they produced. And the idea flew. And so that person began to train some of the salespeople and earn a percentage of what they produced. And that just lit a light bulb in Carl's head, I guess, where he thought this incentivized concept is sound. So sometime later, two high school buddies, discovered Carl's appreciation for health and his products, and they teamed up as partners and became the #1 salespeople for Carl Renborg's company, Neutralite. And those two guys were Jay Van Andel and Rich DeVos. And of course, they were entrepreneurs. They had drive to win and drive to excel. I think that's sometimes a pretty natural thing for a lot of people. They have ambitions to do more and to accomplish more. And so they began to realize, there's other things that we could sell this same way beyond just nutritional products, some household products, consumable things. And so in 1959, they founded the Amway Corporation. And that was the real, I think, the beginning of the mushroom growth of this industry. Had some challenges ahead, of course, but we really all go back to Carl Renborg and the foundation of Neutralite, because that was the real innovator who had the idea of compensating people for the sales that they helped generate. I remember one time, Cindy, in the early 1970s. Of course, I'd never heard of this concept, and I'd been living out of the country for 5 years. And I walked into the garage of some of my parents' longtime friends, and I knew he was a real estate guy, and he had some rental properties and some construction stuff. And I walked in his garage, and I looked around, and he had shelves full of products. And I said, "What is all this?" He said, "Oh, these are products that we sell." And I was kind of intrigued by him. And then he said something amazing to me. He said, "If we recruit people to sell these products, we make a percentage from what they sell." And I thought, you've got to be kidding me. A concept like that exists? Sales was just kind of in my DNA. My first job was selling boiled crab door to door in an Alaskan fishing village. My dad would catch them, mom would boil them, and I'd take the bucket out and I'd knock on doors and sell crabs for 25 cents a piece. I sold newspapers on the street corners of Juneau, Alaska when I was 8 and 9 years old. And I loved the idea that the more I did, the more I hustled, the more I earned, because then I could send off and buy model airplanes, and I could buy the stuff on the back of comic books because I earned some money to do it. So when I found out there was a way you could leverage your success, it was, of course, later on, I've, of course, introduced to the concept of network marketing formally. But anyway, that's our origins go back to those early days, and we could talk about some of the challenges that kind of brought us to where we are today. But maybe you got a question or so you want to interject.
So we naturally, refer people, "Oh my gosh, I love my Toyota Land Cruiser," or I just ate at the most amazing restaurant last night, or "You've got to see the new Avatar," or whatever. We're constantly, in our conversations with people, we're constantly recommending things. The difference is we don't get compensated for those recommendations. What changes is when we find a company like ASEA that we're so passionate about, not only are we going to share it organically, naturally, but we also get compensated for doing so. Now, some people would say, "Well, no, of course you're going to promote it because you're getting paid to promote it. How do I even know that it's the truth? I don't want to hear from you people. You guys work for the company. I want to hear third party, la, la, la." And they think somehow, now that we're getting compensated by the company, that we're not going to be ethical in our honesty and our recommendations. So let's address that a little bit.
Yeah, well, that's a narrow interpretation of the value of your word of mouth and your recommendation. And it almost assumes a level of compromised ethics on the part of everybody else out there. And that's just not the way everybody lives. The idea of being compensated for what you recommend is not a foreign. I mean, I have an American Express card, and if I send a link to other people to get that same card, they'll give me, 10 or 20,000 miles in my account for it. So if I send someone to a car dealership, they'll pay a bird dog fee because I sent them, a customer. So that idea of leveraging people's word of mouth it's not immoral. And it's, I think what really is magical about the network marketing business model is that it does appeal to people who have the business side of it, appeals to people who have an entrepreneurial dream. And not everybody has that. I grant it. Not everybody has that. I mean, I love, you know me, I love Bible stories. And Joseph is a great story. Joseph had dreams. He had dreams of personal grandeur. He had dreams of personal greatness. And of course, he went to his brothers and shared with him his dream that he had about how what a tremendous fulfillment of personal ambition that he'd experienced. And like many people's family, they weren't supportive. In fact, they hated him for it. Welcome to reality. Not everybody's a dreamer, and not everybody's supportive of dreamers. But Joseph had the audacity to believe that, number one, his dreams were real, and then his dreams were right. And it's an amazing story. We won't go into the whole story here, but that's not a part of everybody's life. Not everybody's a dreamer. And for those that have ambition, those that are entrepreneurial, there's not a business model out there that accommodates that like network marketing. But I think it's been proven that what you provide better add value to people's lives, or you won't last long. You just won't last, especially in today's world. Reviews rule the marketplace today. I mean, when you book a cruise or you go to a restaurant, you check out a resort, you look and see what are people saying. In today's world, it's not just what's out there on the company's part. People like you and me who are the users of a product or a service, if we don't experience value from it, we're not going to spin it in a positive light. And if people have a hang up about somebody earning off of that, that's just something that they've got to deal with. There's nothing immoral about it, especially when you realize in our situation that every dollar earned reflects a life benefited, and then sometimes a life saved, certainly quality of life enhanced. And I recognize that network marketing has a lot of different kinds of players, and some of them are just money ideas, money schemes that somebody thought up, and they went to find a product or a service, and the ethical drive is not the same as we've experienced here. And the industry's had to go through that evolution. When Amway first took off in the 50s and the 60s, there was no legal definition of network marketing. And consequently, there was a lot of abuses. And you go back some years prior to that, similar evolution was experienced by the franchising concept. Somebody at some point in time had the idea, if I could package this concept, this system, and sell this package to somebody for a royalty of what they produce, that was a brand new novel idea. Congress came within 11 votes of outlawing franchising way back in the beginning. Obviously, it was tweaked and restructured, and today there's no question about the fact that franchising is alive and well all around the world. Network marketing went through a similar thing. I was around it. I was introduced to the concept formally back in the early 70s, so a long time ago. It just means I'm old. I remember when Amway became a big enough deal that the federal government, we'd all like to think that the federal government wants to facilitate free enterprise and encourage, capitalism, but that's not always the case. And so the federal government stepped in and said, no, and there were a lot of abuses that need to be addressed. Yeah, but the founders of that company were convinced that what they had was legit. And what had happened, Cindy, and this is kind of a dark chapter, I think, of the industry. The early leaders in that, and I'm not painting that company in any kind of a bad light, because we all owe them a debt of gratitude. And I was there and even working that kind of a business for a while. But people recognize that to be successful in this sort of endeavor, personal growth and personal development, mindset, all of that goes into that is necessary. And that back then, there was no Barnes and Noble, there was no Borders store where you could go. There wasn't a plethora of that kind of material in the marketplace. So they began to provide it, and they began to have events where they could enthuse people and inspire people. And what happened, unfortunately, was the events became more profitable than the business. The tail began to wag the dog. And that's where there was struggle. And a lot of money was earned by folks by the tapes that they sold, the books they sold, and the meetings that they put on. And but that was just a part of that was a chapter that the industry went through. But finally, the company got big enough, the government stepped in and said, no, this is an illegal pyramid scheme. And thankfully that the Amway leaders, the corporate leaders, had enough resolve and enough resources. They said, you know what, that's not the case. And they fought back against the FTC. And out of that came a ruling that defined what this business model really is. And so when people talk about pyramid schemes, they're illegal. They've been defined. There are very definitive ways to describe what's legal and what's not legal in this profession. And obviously the illegal ones don't last. There's people still try to come sometimes, pop in and create them and try to make the biggest splash as they can financially and get out, but they don't last. And the companies that last today have to play by rules that are established to benefit the consumer. I still think there's some misunderstanding on the part of on the government side. They really don't understand a whole lot about this business, but at least there are rules established that allow companies like ours to thrive and to flourish. So there's always that two sides of the coin. There's the product side and there's the business side. Not everybody has to do the business side, but those that have ambition and are entrepreneurial and have drive, there's not a model out there that will deliver the results that this does. Not everybody has that, and that's fine. Some people just want to be an employee. They want to be a W-2 employee. You and me, we want to be 1099 earners. Right. And so this business model accommodates us.
So let's just talk a little bit about illegal pyramid schemes. So it's basically a money laundering thing where it's like a chain letter, right? You spend this and then I make this, and then when you get another person to spend that, then you make this, and that's the kind of thing. There's no product, there's no service. It's basically like a chain letter, money laundering. There's no product or service that change hands. And that's
that's definitely a part of it. Or there's a big sign-up fee to join a company for which there is no real substantial goods or value. And then basically people just earn money off the sign-up fees, call them training fees, whatever they want. And those companies are short-lived. I've been around long enough, and so have you, to see the rise and fall of companies like that. Unless you've got a legitimate product that's priced properly, priced for profit and priced to sell, or a service that's offered, you're not going to last in this industry. And there are industry watchdogs in the field that I think try to really help keep companies on track as well. And certainly there are the oversight agencies that sometimes get a little aggressive in their overreach. And good companies, good responsible companies, have legal teams that I sometimes tease our legal folks at ASEA that they run the sales prevention department, but they know that I'm teasing them. They really do run the sales protection department. And they help keep entrepreneurs like you and me in check, which is not always easy to do. But there's very definite distinctions between what is a pyramid and what's a legitimate network marketing company. Truthfully, every corporation out there is a pyramid. If you describe on paper, do a paper diagram of the people organization of any company, I don't care if it's General Motors, if it's your school district, if it's a church, whatever, it begins to look like this. And most people down here at the lower level have no ability to move up and or certainly earn more than the folks that are positioned above them in the organization. Not the case here. We've got people in our organization, if you draw it out this way, who are structurally below where we are, who out earn us. That's fair. That's fair. That's one of the characteristics that distinguishes the legit from the non-legit in this profession.
Yeah, because one of the misunderstandings is the people at the bottom do all the work and the people at the top make all the money. And that does describe a corporation, but it does not,
absolutely.
But it does not describe network marketing. So there's a book out there by Michael Gerber called The E-Myth, and he says, if you have a business that requires your presence, you don't have a business, you have a job.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
The difference between network marketing and a business or a job, whatever, that requires your presence is you physically have to be there. And when you get a ripple effect going in network marketing, so not only can you sell, things to people, hopefully you're with a great company and they want your product, right? And then they tell other people about it. They feel obligated almost to tell other people about it. In the case of ASEA, my goodness, this company turned down a huge offer from a pharmaceutical company. Do you have any idea what we have in our hands? And that enthusiasm organically spreads it to other people. But not only can those people, you get a percentage from those people, but those people can also choose to spread it, and those people and those people and those people. And eventually what happens in this industry is you don't even know the people in your organization. You have tens, hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people in your organization that you've never met. So you've got them indirectly in your organization. So let's talk about the ripple effect that most people don't understand. And quite frankly, most people don't experience, because there's 3 phases of network marketing. The first phase is when you get in, you work really hard and you hardly make any money. And the second phase is when you're working pretty hard and you're making pretty good money. And the third phase is you're hardly working, but you're making way more than you deserve, right? Or not deserve, but that you are working. I mean, because you get this ripple effect of people that are working when you're not working, and you're still getting a percentage of the volume that they're bringing to the network. So that's, I think, what gives network marketing such a bad name, is most people get it stuck in phase 1 and then quit and say, oh, I've done that, it doesn't work.
Yeah, well, a lot of people, I don't know of any endeavor out there, whether it's to become a doctor, to become a lawyer, to climb a mountain, to achieve the major league level of any athletic endeavor. The numbers of people who have the idea to do that and to start up that pathway, who don't ever get there, probably no different than this business. Not everybody who obviously gets involved is going to become, a huge superstar in this business. But that's human endeavor in any arena. I think I love what I love about the concept that drives this, and we all learned this from Zig Ziglar, who I was fortunate to work for a while with personally. He said it so well. In fact, if you had his son Tom on a Zoom right now, you would see this quote behind Tom in his office chair, and it's his dad's quote: "If you help enough people get what they want in life, you can have anything that you want." And that's servant leadership. So if you really do put the welfare and the achievement of others first, it's amazing what can happen. Now, what's really fueled the growth of this, Cindy, in the last couple of decade and a half anyway, is the technology that's just been developed. I mean, you and I were involved in this before the internet. I can remember doing this in the age of payphones and fax machines, and we still had some success, but wow, the work involved even then. So the internet comes along and it just enables our communication to be global. Here we are tonight. I mean, we're miles and miles apart. We got people probably watching this live all over the country. That technological background has given a reach and an expansion to our word of mouth that we've never known before in history. So that's why this is an amazing time to be in this kind of a business, because you have the ability to have a ripple effect of your word of mouth that we've never known. We've never known that. Everybody's not gonna reach the same levels. I mean, that's the nature of anything. I mean, the honor roll in schools, the honor roll, because some people work hard enough to get there. Not everybody's going to do that. And that's no different. It's no different here than any other field of endeavor.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And the thing is that if you physically have to be there at your business or your job, then you can't do business in the Philippines, because you can't be in North Carolina and the Philippines at the same time.
Right.
And a lot of people don't want to have that kind of business where they have to travel to New Orleans, and they have to travel to Texas, and they go to Washington, D.C., then they have to fly over to Australia, then they go off to the UK. I mean, they're absolutely exhausted. They're not spending any time with their family. I mean, I've just got a neighbor who's on that kind of schedule because of the kind of work that he does. And he makes a good living. I shouldn't say he makes a good living. I should say he makes a lot of money.
Yeah,
there's a difference. He doesn't see his wife. He doesn't, it's very different. So this industry can really, I mean, we don't store things in our garage like your parents' friend. We don't have to
Right.
store product in our garage, and we don't write checks to the people, in our neighborhood who
Yeah.
are on our business team or whatever. That's old-fashioned multi-level marketing. I mean, what you described in network marketing, it's a whole new world. I mean, the internet has changed the way this business operates. And now with social media on top of that, it's
Yeah.
just amplified. So if you have a company like ASEA that has a patented technology that's making an emotional difference in people's lives, it's got a built-in motor and also a built-in obligation. Then you pile the ethics on top of it,
Yeah.
where we strive constantly to keep our humanity, our humility, our honesty, our integrity above our drive for money or our drive to make ourselves look good. And then constantly do the personal growth that you were talking about, our capacity to deliver in the marketplace. That's the ethos that we're taught, at ASEA. So when people really understand how special not only this industry is, but this company within the industry is, they realize how incredible what we have is, because most network marketing companies start to understand the business model and they say, hey, let's start a network marketing company. What do you want to sell? And this company said, how can we get this technology in the hands of people globally at a reasonable cost? So
the horse was before the cart here, definitely, because there are a lot of companies out there that were really just somebody's business brainchild. And so the ethical motor was just not what this is at all. And the other challenge too, Cindy, is the threshold of entry in this profession is so low that anybody really can participate, which is a good thing. But it also allows people who do see what can be accomplished by the top performers. And so they can just step across the threshold of involvement and think that they're just going to manipulate or push their way or cheat their way to the top. And it just isn't going to happen. It's not going to happen. They're going to get sorted out. They're going to get spit out of the process. But it does make it possible for all kinds of people to get involved, some of whom aren't going to give the profession a good name. That's just the reality of it. My concern is that there are people out there who, if they really understood what this profession is, they would totally embrace it. But they've got stuck in their mind a representation by somebody perhaps back in this. Here's a little piece that happened when the government took on Amway, and of course the media doesn't always portray things correctly. And so the perception got out there that this big company that was growing was taking advantage of people, was a pyramid, whatever. And so to kind of even get in front of people, the participants would almost have to kind of trick their way into a presentation. Come over for dinner, Bo and Cindy, and you know what? And then they would spring a meeting on you. And they had some results doing that, but that was extremely distasteful to a lot of people. It was to me. But that was a part of the chapter of the growth. And then, of course, the other thing where they begin to make more money off the the ancillary things. But I just think today, if people are making a decision in the 2020s based on information or based on a perception, a representation that they carry with them from the 70s, the 80s, or the 90s, you just can't make good business decisions on information that's out of date or incomplete or inaccurate. And my challenge to folks is get good information on where this industry is today. Understand why there are over 1,000 companies that market this way. Understand why the industry combined is bigger than the movie industry. It's bigger than professional sports. This is a big industry and it's growing. It appeals to populations all over the world. We have cultures where people have not had the opportunity for a capitalistic enterprise like we have here. When network marketing comes within their reach, it appeals to the basic drive for accomplishment that I think still rests in most people. And that's the beauty of what this business offers. And so I'm just to the point where, and I know you guys feel the same way, I don't believe there's a more honorable, a more fair or noble way to earn an income than to build a network marketing business. I just think that's I'm convinced. I'm convinced.
I so agree with you. And, Tammy Gates mentioned a movie or a television series. I think it was called Lula Rouge or something like
Yeah.
that. And it was about an absolutely horrible network marketing organization, which people spent, I don't know, $10,000 to get started. They bought all these
Yeah.
clothes that were falling apart. There was no follow-up. I mean, it was a poorly run company, and a lot of people got burned, and then they made this movie out of it. And so people think, oh, see, that's why you shouldn't do network marketing. Well, I don't know about you, Ed, but I've been to retail stores and had an absolutely horrible experience.
Sure.
And it's not like I'm never doing retail again.
Right.
All retail stores are the same. No, I'm going to go into a different store and have a better experience.
Yeah.
Same with network marketing.
Absolutely.
This is just a business model. It's not all, unfortunately, a lot of people throw all the network marketing companies into the same bucket. And it's a huge mistake. Huge mistake.
Yeah. Right? Absolutely. We're all different. We're all different. There's, I don't know, any profession that doesn't have its bad apples. They're out there. And our industry is no different, but you know what? They just don't last. They don't last. Either regulatory pressure will put them out, or people will just, people are too smart. That's why when I talk with folks, I say, you know what, you're smart. There's no reason for me to puff the numbers, to give you a bunch of blue sky, because you'll figure it out. And in this business model, I only earn if I help you earn. And if you get disillusioned based on the reality that I didn't tell you about, you're going to earn zero, and my percentage is going to be zero. So I have every reason in the world to be forthright and truthful and ethical, to give you good information, because you're going to figure it out anyway. Yeah. And this is kind of a little bit of a self-policing industry, probably more so than a lot of them out there. But it's just it offers opportunity, and of course, I think we're really in a unique place with our company, because had it really been about the money, we would have never had this company.
That's right. Because
our founders fortunately put the mission above the money. And I think if we keep our priorities right here, we'll see great success corporately and individually.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I want to end with you telling a story. I know that you've told this story before, but the reason that this company is so special is because of who is promoting it. You're not going to attract an Ed Wiens or a Vertus Norton or a Tyler Norton or a Chuck Funky, and Scott Aldred, you can go all the way down the list of the corporate players and the field leaders. You're not going to attract these incredible quality, compassionate, integrity people if you have some kind of pyramid scam, stupid company. Their reputation and their credibility is important to them. They've built it for years upon years in their life. And so if you take the time to do the due diligence on the players, who's involved with ASEA, who's promoting it, who's supporting it from a company standpoint and a field standpoint, you can't come away. If you do come away with that these guys are a bunch of sleaze bags, then that's your opinion, and I couldn't disagree more. But yeah. I know that when you talk about Vertus handing us this company, we want to tell that analogy of what happened to you and how you feel about Vertus trusting us with this company instead of taking this gigantic check from a pharmaceutical company.
Yeah, well, I'll tell the story. I've told it before, but it's always a little bit of a challenge to tell it the way I feel it. But yeah, it was 31 years ago, actually, in March. I was part of a church delegation. We were in Vietnam, and we were there for a number of reasons. And I was the photographer for the team. And so one evening I was in a park across from our hotel with a bunch of candy in my pocket and film gear and taking pictures. When you're a 6 foot plus tall gringo and you got a bunch of candy and a camera and you're in a crowded park, you're kind of a kid magnet. So I had kids all around me and I was having a ball just taking pictures of them. And out of the corner of my eye, I caught the glimpse of somebody kind of approaching me that was not a kid. And I turned around, it was a young lady, and she had an infant in her arms. And she walked up to me, and she knew enough English to say this. She shoved the baby into my chest and she says, "Take my baby." And she let go of it and took off. And of course, I'm just, catching the baby, trying to wrap my mind around what's happening. I didn't want to drop all the camera stuff, but certainly didn't want to drop the baby. And I just instantly processed all the things in my head that she must have been thinking. I know she was saying to me, if you would take this baby, it'll probably have a future that I can't give it. I'm willing to give it up and put it in the hands of a stranger because it has a future that it doesn't have here. And I was overwhelmed, obviously, by the act of desperation and hope, perhaps, that she got a glimpse of. And at the same time, I'm thinking, what am I going to do with this baby? I would love to take this baby home, but I knew I couldn't do that. And so I gathered up all my gear and I kind of went off in the direction that she had gone. And I'm trying to process everything that's happening and look for her. And I finally did spot her, and she was just sort of, I don't know if I can't remember now, she was sitting or in a corner or whatever, but she was crying. And I just, she knew enough to say, "Take my baby." So I just said, "Listen, I can't take your baby." And I handed her baby back to her, which I really kind of hated to do. But I knew I didn't have any choice other than that. And I was a mess at that point, and just found my way to my hotel and just tried to process what had happened. And didn't tell a whole lot of people about that experience. It was just something that was really personal and emotional, and a pretty jarring experience, quite honestly. And so fast forward, my first ASEA convention, I'm still trying to wrap my mind around what I was preparing to become more of a part of. And Vertus spoke at that convention. And at the end, we often show this quote now in our presentations where he said, "Right now we're at the start of something big, and we have an opportunity to change the future." And when he said that, he stepped to the side of the podium, out to the edge of the stage, and he gestured to the audience. He said, "Take this company where it needs to go." And I immediately had the flash in my mind of that young mom saying, "Take my baby." And I kind of made the leap to what I felt he was saying. He was saying, "Listen, I'm old, and I can't give this baby the future that it deserves. So I'm willing to hand it off to you to give it a future and to take it where it needs to go, because I've taken it as far as I can take it." And I literally, sitting there, just kind of took the hand off, and I thought, okay, I got it. I got it. And you can trust me. I'm going to give this baby its future. And I guess that's part of my message, Cindy, is that we have an unbelievable honor and an unbelievable responsibility as field leaders to take this baby where he intended for it to go. And if it's going to have a future, it's up to us. He's 80 something years old today, and he's got great leadership in place at the company, but they can only do so much. They're not the salespeople. We are. We're the ones that are going to perpetuate this mission, and we're going to tell this story, and we're going to give this. Every time I get a chance to just pass this story on the ties, just tell your dad we got the baby. That's right. We got it, and we're going to give it a future. So, yeah, that's the story. It's still kind of. In fact, I'm going to be in Vietnam this year, and I'm going to go find that park and kind of just relive that moment in June of this year. So that'll be a powerful moment for me.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I can't even imagine, but it's such a powerful analogy, because a lot of people that are bringing ASEA to the world, to the people that they love and care about, and people they don't even know, believe so much in this company, believe so much in what, and so we're following all the rules of the FDA, all the rules of the FTC. every country has different health rules and different financial rules, and what you can say and what you can't say, and what you can claim and what you can't claim, and all that kind of stuff. And so for Virtus to trust us to, cross our T's, dot our I's, and mind our P's and Q's, it took a tremendous amount of faith in our humanity. So anyway, I really appreciate you. I know we're a little bit past the time that we said we were going to take, so we need to wrap it up. But I want to thank you so much. You're just such a blessing to this company.
Well, thank you, Cindy. It's a few mutual. You and Bo are great friends, have been for a long time, and we got a lot of future to work together.
Yeah, we're just getting started, started. And anybody who has the guts and the ambition, like you talked about, to make something unbelievable out of their life, this is a vehicle in which they can do that. So I want to thank you. Have an incredible evening. Please give our love to Rebecca, and good evening, everybody.
Thanks, Cindy.
Good night.